everyone, and welcome to the Love Like Crazy podcast. We're your hosts, Jay and Stacy Coleman. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening in. We just appreciate all of our viewers and all of your response and feedback. We just appreciate it. Listen, today we have a great topic. It's going to be my favorite topic, I think, to talk about and I've been waiting some time to be able to talk about this. But Jay, I want you to jump in and help me set the stage for this.
I'm sitting here thinking, as you said, that today we have a great topic. Like, it seems like every episode we say that.
They're all great, and you need to listen to all of them.
Well, because the podcast is about building a stronger marriage and family. And I know that this is an episode out of every one that we do. This is the one that you've been talking the most about. This is the one that you're the most excited about. You've been prepping and planning, and I'm probably going to lean on you more so in this. I'm going to just let you go for it and run with it.
Well, you baited me in one of the first episodes that we did. You mentioned something about the love languages, and I said, "Oh, you're going to talk about that?" Yeah. And you said, "No, I'm not. We're just referencing it."
And then you came back and said, "I want to do an episode where I get to talk about this." Yes, where we get to talk about it. Go for it. So today we're going to dive off into this here in just a moment. We're going to talk about the 5 love languages, talk about what it really means to love, how you feel one another's love. Before I do that, I do want to take a quick moment to let you guys know, if you're enjoying this podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, you share, you give us a review. We love to read the different thoughts that you have about the podcast. And so it's great to have you guys as our listeners, those of you who are watching on YouTube as our viewers. And today I want to start off with this verse, 1 John 4:7-8. It says, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love."
That's right.
Now, when you look at that verse, you see it in our relationships. It is very important what love looks like, because it's an indicator of a lot of different things in our life. So here's the question. Why do we have love issues? Why do we have issues feeling people's love? Why do we have issues with making other people feel our love? And I believe, and you're going to back this up here in just a moment, it's because we speak different languages. There is a language that we have where we feel somebody's love towards us. And I think back to whenever I was in high school, I think you took a foreign language.
Well, I started to take a foreign language, which was French.
Parlez-vous français?
And I was in that class for just a few weeks and decided I needed to be in choir. And it benefited me tremendously for me to take choir, because I ended up with a music degree.
Degree, and you have wound up being a worship pastor for many, many years. You had a studio teaching piano and voice lessons for many, many years. So I'm glad you did not take French.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wished I had learned a little bit of it a few years ago when we went to Paris, and I could not read or understand any of the signs.
Well, let me say this to you. I'm
glad they spoke a little bit of English.
I'm talking about learning to speak another language, and I did take French in high school.
And you remember a lot of it?
No, I do not. I remember one Christmas song that we learned, and I remember Parlez-vous français. That's pretty much it. That's, do you speak French? And that's as far as I can get in it. I struggle with it. The reason why I struggle with it is because it was not native to me. It was not my native language.
No.
And oftentimes, whenever it comes to speaking one another's love language, the way that somebody speaks love or tries to make you feel their love is not native to you, it's not your language, then quite naturally it's something you're going to struggle in that regard. So when you think about that, there's a lot of frustration, oftentimes within marriage, oftentimes within different relationships, because we don't really understand one another's love language.
But I do think that once you understand each other's love language, which we're going to get into this in just a second, then it's going to come easier. And then also it takes work. Just like if I would have stuck with French class, it was going to take a lot of work for me to learn that language. Yeah. So once you can identify each other's love language, then you have to work at it.
I went on a mission trip years ago, and it was in the Congo. And while we're there, the native language for a lot of them there was French. And so I would get up, there was, 50, 60, 70,000 people at these meetings. And I would get up, and I remember I would say, Parlez-vous français? And, I found out what I was saying. They didn't quite, comprehend and it caused a lot of confusion. Let's just put it that
way.
Okay. So when something's not native to you, you struggle in that regards. When it comes to your love language, it can be frustrating if you don't quite know how to speak each other's love language. But as you said, it builds your marriage. As you work on it, it builds your marriage. So tell us about the book. Gary Chapman wrote this book.
Yes. So there is a book by the author Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages, and there's the 5 love languages, for your marriage. And if you're watching,
if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this book. This is and I often joke he wrote the 5 love languages, and there were some follow-up books behind this one. The different topics that he took and ran with it, and he did a good job with that book.
And this book has sold like over 20 million copies. So
seriously,
that's what it says. That's what it says on there. So, if you've never heard of it, I hope you'll really grab a hold to all the things that we're about to talk about. And if you have heard of this, maybe this is like a refresher course for you.
I actually reference this book quite often whenever I do marital counseling. Even whenever I do premarital counseling, I reference this book because we got our hands on this probably year 15, 18, somewhere around in there. And you read it, and then you came to me and said, you need to read this book. And I remember getting a hold of it and reading it, and it was like my eyes were opened up. The reason why is because I remember specifically when we first got married, I was one who loved to give gifts. And I would buy you flowers, I would buy you a dress, I would buy you different things. And whenever I would do that for you, you didn't respond in the way that I expected. You'd just be like, oh, thank you.
I think I told you something like, don't waste your money on flowers.
Not at first, but the more I bought you flowers, eventually you were like,
I do. It's a nice surprise from time to time. But gifts was not my love language.
It wasn't. And actually, I would get frustrated because I'm doing this to express my love to you, and you would not reciprocate quite in the way that I, you wouldn't gush. You wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so as a result, I would get frustrated. It wasn't until after we got our hands on this book and read this and I realized, now I understand, because if I would have spoke your love language in a way that you would have gushed, you would have been like, oh my gosh, you're the greatest person on the planet.
Right. Well, so yes, it was this book, but the first love language book that I read that really, truly opened my eyes to minister to my children. There's one called The 5 Love Languages for Children. It was a blue book. I remember sharing it with a lot of the moms early on when we started pastoring the church. And because I was like so excited to have all this information and then be able to realize, okay, there are different ways to fill the love tank for my children and my spouse.
So give our listeners an idea. If they haven't read the book, when you say love tank, fill the love, what does that even mean?
Well, because there are different languages, and if we're not speaking the proper love language that someone might have, like you were trying to speak love to me through gifts, that wasn't really how I received it. So it's how we give and receive love.
Okay.
That is important. That will either fill our love tank or empty it out.
So to clarify, each person has a tank, a love tank.
A love tank, quotes, air quotes.
That love tank either stays full or half full or empty. And as a spouse, you want to try and keep your spouse's love tank as full as you can.
Right. And it's very helpful. What I discovered with my children was very helpful, especially even in the way that I disciplined them once I had an understanding of how they were receiving my love and also giving their love.
Well, and I was going to say this earlier. I jokingly responded, you had all these companion books, the 5 love languages of teenagers.
Yeah, you used to kind of make fun of me for
kids,
being all
teenagers,
into the
husbands,
love
wife, the 5 love languages for your German Shepherd, all these different things. Because, I get it. You write all these different books as spin-off books of the original. But it was really, really helpful to you in regards of your children.
Yeah.
So if you're listening today to this podcast, I highly recommend get your hands on the book, The 5 Love Languages, and you highly recommend getting your hand on the book, The 5 Love Languages of your children.
For children. I mean, they have all types like even for singles. Okay. So if there's some single people listening, there's that
love tank full.
Right. So it's all in how we give and we receive love. So let me just go ahead and kind of tell you the 5 love languages that the author mentions in this book, and I can kind of give examples for each, because as I was going over this,
that's very helpful.
As I was going over this, I realized that out of the 5 of us in our family, meaning me and you and our 3 sons, we each have as a primary love language one of these 5. So I have an example for each. So the first one is words of encouragement or words of affirmation, is that what is sometimes said. And that is that the person who has that primary love language, and I'm saying primary because you can have your primary love language and then a secondary one as well, okay? Yeah. But if it's your primary love language, then
this is the primary way that you feel someone else's love towards you. And
how your love tank is to be filled up, okay?
So what would some examples of that, what did you say?
Affirmation. Yeah, words of encouragement or affirmation is that if that's your love language, then, and it's not to be like, oh, please build me up or whatever, but it's, hey, you're doing a great job, you're awesome, those type of things that can just affirm them in whatever situation.
You are the dream spouse that I always prayed for. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That's a good one. Well, I realized that this happens to be the love language of our oldest son. And so I remember when he was learning the guitar, he and I are both musicians, and so we're always on the worship team, and I was training him for many years in that, and he was learning the guitar, and I just was constantly affirming him in that, because I knew it was something that he loved, something that he was working on, and I was very excited, that was a goal of his, and it has paid off tremendously because he is now our worship leader at our church. And so affirmation is a big part, and that encourages him and fills his love tank.
So words of affirmation or encouragement, you're talking about our oldest son, but it's words that you use to build that person. Correct me if I'm wrong. It can have the opposite effect as well. If their love language is words of affirmation, of encouragement, if you speak discouraging words to them, you could tear them apart.
You're going to empty that love tank. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that needs to be identified, that there is the positive and the negative to this, that when you are not speaking in the love language that your spouse or your children or your friends, whoever it is, that they need, it depletes them and can make them feel unloved, I suppose.
Okay. So in other words, while he's playing his guitar, he's learning, he's growing in this. If you say, he's like, hey, how do you think I'm doing with this? If you say, look, you're a garbage guitar player.
If you were really like tearing him apart and being criticizing.
You're the worst guitar player I've ever heard in my entire life.
So and he's not, he's really good.
He really is good.
He's really, really good.
I'm giving that as just a goofy example of the sense that would be something that would be detrimental for him.
Oh, it would. It would absolutely deplenish his love tank and cause him to be so discouraged, and ultimately when his love language is not being spoken, it can just be decimating to a person, okay?
So words of affirmation or encouragement.
Yes. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is acts of service.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there because I do know this. You asked me before we started recording this episode, do you know what my love language is? And I told you, well, it used to be words of affirmation, but it shifted a little bit probably in the last 10 years. Now, I think it probably always was this, but now there's more of an awareness there that you realize acts of service is your love language.
Yes. Acts of service is definitely mine. And what that does is the loudest way that you can speak that love language is just by doing for that person.
And here's what that looks like. I don't know what it is, but in the morning you love it whenever I get up and I make you a piece of toast with peanut butter on it.
I do.
And, sometimes I have time to do that. I try to make time to do that as often as possible. You like it whenever I make lunch for you. You like it whenever I wash the dishes. you like it whenever I take your vehicle and wash your vehicle. And what that is, it really is just serving you,
yes,
honoring
right.
you and serving you and cherishing you.
Yeah, and so those things are like needed for me. So I've recognized that, when you do that for me, when other people do certain things for me, I'm like, oh, like I feel really, really loved.
You feel valued, loved, and appreciated.
But then also I want you to take note that whatever your primary love language is, and that's the way you receive it, a lot of times that's the way you give love. Okay. Initially. That's your first go-to of how you want to give love out. And so I tend to want to serve other people. I'm always, wanting to,
give gifts.
I give gifts and stuff like that. I think people thought, oh, gifts must be your love language. And I was like, no, giving it and being of service to someone or helping someone with a need, that is really how I'm giving love out gifts. Mainly. You like gifts?
I like gifts. Okay. You want to pick me up a gift somewhere, I would like that.
Well, I won't turn away a gift.
Bass Pro, Home Depot.
Now, see, all my friends listening are going to think, oh, Jay bought her a dress, and she was like, don't give me gifts, and they're not going to want to. No, you can still give me gifts, okay, friends?
Well,
okay.
I know what the gifts in this day and age you like. I'm not going to buy you flowers. I'm going to get you a gift card for massage. So
yes.
Okay.
Oh, amen. Okay, that's great. That's great. So, when I'm saying that, like acts of service is how I also give love. And I look at my oldest son, when I said his love language was words of encouragement, he is the biggest encourager. He really is. That is also how he gives love. And so, just be thinking, of the ones in your family, like, okay, which one of these could be their love language? The third love language is this. It's gift giving. We've mentioned that quite a few times.
We've already talked about this one somewhat.
Right. So if that is your primary love language, then bringing them something of any value, it doesn't have to be wrapped up with a bow, okay? But just your thoughtfulness and thinking of them and saying, hey, I picked this up for you. I heard that you might need this. Or, that is great for someone who has that love language. And what it communicates to them is that when you're apart, then that means that, oh, you're thinking of me.
Yeah.
So our youngest son, that is his love language. And the time that really jumped out to me when I noticed that was truly his primary love language, when he was in kindergarten, he came home one day and he said, Mama, my teacher gave everybody brand new crayons, like a brand new box of crayons. And he was it was like probably halfway through the school year. And he was so excited. That was a big gift to him. And he was just so happy about it. I didn't have the heart to tell him that Mama was the one that bought all the crayons and sent them to school. And the teacher gave them out,
she just handed them out.
the new set of crayons halfway through the school year. And I really wanted to take credit. No, Mama gave you those crayons. But he received that love from his teacher because of that gift that she offered to them in class.
You know what's funny about this is that Reese and his bride, Kayla, we call her KK, they've been married now for going on 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
And I think it was kind of a neat thing to sit back and watch because she took care of him in this regards from the time they were dating forward. She would bring him little gifts here and there. And I really thought that was because we knew his love language was gifts, but obviously she figured that out rather quickly and she speaks his love language very, very well. The cool part was she would bring him things like gummy bears and candy. And when they were away, I would sneak in his room and I would eat them. So
there you go, telling on yourself.
Because my love language is gummy bears.
Is it gummy bears? Okay, so we've got words of encouragement, acts of service, gift giving. The fourth one is quality time. And Jay, that is your primary love language.
It is.
For sure. So when you that tells someone that you're taking time for them, that you're taking time to slow down, to acknowledge them, and to connect with them. And so just a little tidbit to all the ladies out there that, trying to have quality time with someone during Monday Night Football or something like that. It's not going to work. That's not going to work. So, but I do know one of the things that works for you is that you love it if we'll just go run errands together.
Go grocery shopping together, run errands together, go for a walk together. You did something this past year, and Carlos, maybe we can put a picture up of this up on YouTube. If you're listening to this, go to YouTube and watch the video. If my wife will allow this.
Oh goodness. Well, now I'm going to have to.
Well, you have to now. I've spoken it into existence. Last year, I asked you, hey, we were at the camp, and I said, hey, will you go, honey, I love to duck hunt. I said, will you go duck hunting with me? And she's all the time we've been married, 31 years, she's only gone duck hunting with me twice before. One time we went and we got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and went. And you, if you remember correctly, you slept the entire time.
Yes.
And then when you finally woke up, I was like, okay, let's go. The other time we went out in the duck blind and it just started pouring down rain and you got soaked.
And I was like, I do not want to do this again.
Yeah, so that was many years ago. And she was like, I'm never doing this again. Well, this time it was just me and her at the camp. And I asked her and she said, yeah, I'll go out with you. So we went out, we sat in the duck blind. And we had a great time, and we visited, we laughed, we cut up, and what it was that meant something to me because you actually were taking time to go with me to do something that I love to do. So you were speaking my love language in a very great way.
Yeah, so we're going to have to pull out that picture to show everybody.
I can't remember if you were wearing makeup in the picture or not.
Oh, well.
But you had some camo on.
It just doesn't matter.
You had some camo on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, I definitely got all in to go hunting with you that time. But if you have, your spouse or your children, that is their love language, then whatever it is that they love to do, like you were talking about, that's a hobby of yours to go duck hunting, then whatever your person, their favorite thing to do, then make plans to spend quality time with them doing that.
Okay, so words of encouragement or affirmation, acts of service, gift giving, quality time. Okay.
The last one.
I want to talk about this one because I love this one.
Okay, the last one.
I have a minor in this last one.
Yeah, okay. You have a 6th love language is what it is. So the 5th one is physical touch.
Now, most people think when you talk about physical touch, you're talking about sex.
Right, and that's not what we're talking about. It can be.
Let me throw that out there for hope for everybody out there, because all the guys are like, yeah, that's my love language. It's not necessarily that. So tell us what we're talking about here.
So if it is your primary love language, physical touch, that means that you that person will feel your love through the closeness, through holding hands, hugging, that kind of thing. Any type of physical contact, right? And so that happens to be our middle son's love language. And I recognized this when they were real young, when I first read the book. And he is definitely one that was just, when he was little, a cuddler, just very, very
He's gonna
loving.
Love this.
Our grandson is the same way. So I recognized that would help him to really have a good day at school. I would wake him up first and spend some time with him and just snuggle and give him all the cuddles and everything before I woke up his brothers, and then we got ready for school. So that was when he was little, okay? But also it shifted when he was a teenager, okay? And so, which makes me think there's also a 5 love languages for teenagers. Okay. So parents of teenagers, there's hope, okay? Read that book. That will help you. So for my middle son, being that physical touch was his love language, I told him as a teenager, I said, look, I don't want to embarrass you. I'm not going to come up and hug you, and I definitely don't want to do that in front of your friends. So I told him, I said, listen, when you need a hug, you come to me when you need a hug. And so from time to time, sometimes he'd come over and give me a hug. Now, he's how tall now?
He's 6'5".
He's 6'5". Okay, so he hovers over me. But even to this day, when he doesn't give me a bear hug. He just kind of leans on me or wraps his side arm around me and squeezes. And so that is his, that's his love language. Well, that's what helps him.
And straight up, we're all in our family. We're all tall. I'm 6'3". Bryce is 6'5". Yeah. Reese is he's a little taller than me, a little shorter than Bryce, and Tyler's 6 foot. So we're all big guys, and for to have him grab you and hug you.
Yeah, I'm the shortest one out of all you guys.
5'8", so it was kind of a cool thing to see big old guy grab his mom and hug her. So.
But I mean, and still to this day, of course, all my boys are huggers because in our family we say hugs are free. So we take advantage of that. So all of these different love languages can be so very helpful. Like I said, to give that kind of love, to receive that kind of love, and it also helps to lessen relational conflicts when you know how to speak the other person's love language. So I just want to encourage our listeners to, maybe search out the love language, learn about it a little bit more, be able to identify for your children, for your spouse, for your friends, other family members. I have found that it has also helped shift things with other family members as well once I identify that love language, because if we're not speaking it in the right way, it can cause issues. So I would like to recommend not only the books that you can buy to read, but also if you go to their website at 5lovelanguages.com, and it's the number 5lovelanguages.com, they have a quiz that you can take that will help you to determine your primary and secondary love language.
Well, so I do want to take some time. So I highly encourage you, read the books, take the quiz.
I think even the quiz is in the back of some of the books, or all of the books.
And husbands, listen to me. Don't have the mindset of this is a woman's thing. No, this really helped me as a husband understand my wife in a better way, be able to speak her love language, and it built our marriage and also with our kids as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So I do want to take a little bit of time to be able to talk about the 6th love language.
Oh, okay? Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Now, I jokingly say that I'm going to write a book called The 6th Love Language.
Really?
I came up with this, and Gary Chapman, if you're listening to Love Like Crazy, the podcast, yes, I would partner with you to write this book. And the 6th love language is based off of whenever quality time. That's my love language. And I do enjoy holding hands with my wife. I do enjoy hugging her. So physical touch. So I joined them together and created the 6th love language, quality touch. Okay.
And that sounds just something that would come from a man.
And here was the mindset. I don't want to just hold your hand. I want to make out with you. Okay. So it was a joke, but the bottom line is this: every
man is thinking the same thing.
Every man is thinking like that's my love language. Quality
there it
touch.
Is. There it
I
is.
don't want just physical touch. I want quality.
They don't
touch.
even have to take the quiz. They just already know.
They know what their love language is right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that's fun to laugh about that and cut up. But seriously, understanding your spouse's love language,
so important.
Speaking in their love language will build your marriage. It'll make it strong. It'll make it healthy.
Yes.
Understanding your kids' love languages and speaking that will build your family and make it stronger.
Yes. I'm so excited that we got to talk about this topic because, if we're going to have a podcast called Love Like Crazy, we have to talk about the love languages. No doubt.
And this is in your wheelhouse.
This is in my wheelhouse. It is.
I'll chime in, but I'm back at...
I'll talk about it anytime.
When you talk about a pastor, allowing because pastors can talk, okay? We can teach, we can talk, but I knew that this was in your wheelhouse, and I'd back off and let you just do your thing. And what I like about it is you help everybody have a better understanding that every person has a love tank. And here's one of the things: your love tank is either full or it's depleted. It's going down on empty. Think about it in regards of like a gas tank for a car. Your car can move forward and it's got power as long as it has gas.
Yes.
Okay. And you're watching that gas gauge, 3/4 of tank, half tank. And if you're anything like my wife, she will draw that tank down to like, I've got like 3 miles left in the tank. Then I got to fill it up for her again because acts of service, serving you. But I like to keep the tank in my truck as full as possible. So you want to keep the love tank within your spouse, your kids as full as possible. So it's important to speak each other's love language.
Yes. Very, very important. Thank you for letting me share.
Well, I figured you'd enjoy that. You got anything else you want to share?
Just go into that website and take the quiz at 5lovelanguages.com, or buy the book.
Okay, Gary Chapman, if you're listening, we are telling everybody to buy your book.
Buy your books.
And let's get together and write that book, The Sixth Love Language by Jay Coleman / Gary Chapman.
Okay, there you go.
Hey, listen, hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast today. We've had a lot of fun cutting up, but gave some great information to help build your marriage and build your family and make it stronger and healthier every single day. So if you have enjoyed this episode, like, subscribe, share, let everybody know, help us build this podcast, get the word out. And until next time, I'm Jay.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is Love Like Crazy.